Hey guys, last week I built this speech-to-speech AI English teacher. In this series, I will walk you through the whole process for me to build this AI English teacher, both from the project management perspective and from the programmer's point of view. Let me give you a quick tour of the project and then we'll jump right into it. So it's a simple application where I have a button at the middle of the screen and I can click on the button. So I can log in and log out. So let's try to log out to see how it works when the user is not authenticated. So I can click on it and start to speak. Hey, my name is Kevin.
Kevin, nice to meet you. To start assisting you with your English speech practice, please authenticate using the button below.
So here you can notice two things. The first one is there is a real-time waveform, both when I speak and when the assistant speaks. There is also a silence detection system that will automatically send the audio file to the assistant when I stop talking for, more than 2 seconds or something like that. And also, as you can see, the assistant is able to respond. And if I'm not authenticated, the assistant will ask me to authenticate. So I will authenticate. Here I'm redirected to my COBOL authentication portal. I can just authorize it because I already signed in before, and boom, I go back to my app and I'm authenticated. And now I can use the same button to discuss with my AI English teacher, and if I make mistakes, the teacher will correct me, and the teacher is also trained to ask me new questions every time to make me talk. So let's try it very quickly. Hey, my name is Kevin.
Yes, Kevin, I remember. We've been talking about your interests. Where is your favorite place to ride your motorbike?
So now I can answer and, I can keep the conversation going with my assistant. I will reload the page and, every time I send a message, there is this credit system here, which is a quota system because I can send on the free plan only 10 requests per month. But, then I can purchase a paid plan. So this is quite simple to build. It's managed by COBOL.io, and then I can manage my app in app.cobol.io. I have my dashboard. I can view my users here. For every user, I can access to my statistics like the usage, the most important users based on the usage and everything like that. I can manage my products, but this is provided by COBOL, so it won't be a big of a deal in this series of videos. So now we saw a demo of our product. Let's build it. Actually, not yet. What I would like to show you in this first video is the project management side of my journey as a software engineer. When we watch tutorials on the internet, the first things programmers do in general is they install Next, they spin up database, they install Prisma, and they jump right into the code. However, this is not reality, and in this video I wanted to share with you the real side of building a software and how I personally do to launch one SaaS every week. So the reason why I wanted to start more with a project management video instead of jumping right into the code is first, tutorials are not real life. When you watch a tutorial, you're watching someone who already built a project explaining you how it's built. But this person doesn't really explain you the process of building it. This person only explains you how to rebuild something already built, which is not exactly the same thing, because as long as you'll build your software, you'll go back and forth and you'll have to answer a lot of questions you may have when you start the project, and we'll talk about that in this video. So it's important for you when you launch projects to understand what problem you're solving for your users. It's important also to divide your work in smaller pieces, and it's crucial to be able to prioritize those pieces. And in this video, I will share my thought process and how I do to manage my project from day one. So if we don't code, what are we talking about in this video? Well, we'll talk about three main things: how to make effective diagrams. And this sounds like funny, but it's a real skill as a programmer. And I often see experienced programmers making mistakes when they make diagrams. Then how to divide and prioritize our work. This is crucial. And finally, we'll talk about something extremely crucial in software engineering, which is risk mitigation. And most programmers miss that part when they launch a project. And trust me, this will be game changer in your programming journey. So let's talk about diagrams. Diagrams are a good way to put down your ideas and to, think about your project and what are the pieces you'll need to build it. The main strength of a diagram is it allows you to have a better understanding of your user's journey, for example, or about how some pieces of your app will work. Here, I suggest you two things. The first one is to always start with the user perspective and the user journey. So you can create a use case diagram, you can create any diagram you want, but always start with the user point of view. That will be the first rule. The second rule will be to keep it simple, and we'll talk about later. So here, as you can see, I just started with a very simple diagram where I can see my two actors. It's important to start with your actors, here my user and the English teacher. Even though we know the user is a human and the English teacher is an AI, those are the two actors of my app. And then those actors will take action. So my user will record a voice, and then when the voice will be recorded, my English teacher will respond. And when the response will be ready, it will be sent to the user again. And this is the loop of my application. Now we have this simple diagram. What we can do is we can add some component. And I won't go over this diagram in detail because this is not the focus on that video. We'll talk about more in the next one. But as you can see, I can now add some component. If the user needs to record some voice, then we need an audio recorder. So we can add, by starting with the action of the user, we can add all the pieces we need to build our entire app. So for example, here, if the English teacher needs to respond, then we need maybe to split, the work of the English teacher in many tasks, like transcribing the speech of the user into text, then asking for chat completion, which means asking an AI to understand the request of the user and answer it. After that, we need to transform the text into a speech to be able to send it to the user. So when we respond, obviously the user will need to play the response. So we'll need an audio player. And again, this is not something you will start with. As you can see, I just wanted to show you what my final diagram looks like. And the takeaway here is my diagram is extremely simple. And that's the reason why I would like to share this quote to you, which is from Mark Richards, who says, "Don't fall in love with your diagrams." This is crucial in programming. I often see programmers wasting days or at least hours creating a diagram. They try to, add colors, create beautiful diagrams. Some of them even use design software like Figma to create insanely beautiful diagrams. However, the more beautiful your diagram is, the more proud of it you are, the less you want to change it over time. And this is crucial to understand. You have to create simple diagrams because they will change constantly. And a diagram that won't change over time is a useless diagram. And this can be summarized in this caption. Actually, your project today looks like this, and your project when you launch it will look like this. If you already coded some software, you know that between the time you think about the project and the time you launch it, you have a ton of things happening in between. So you'll discover new users' problem, you'll have some lack of skills and you'll have to learn new things or to find workarounds. You have some deadlines that will make it impossible and you have to take shortcuts. Anything could happen. So your diagrams and your plans in general has to be flexible. And this is crucial if you want to launch a SaaS or any software. The next thing you have to do is to divide and conquer. So you probably heard it already. You have to divide your software in smaller pieces. But the question is how to do it effectively. The answer is simple. You have to think about what's unknown in this project. Because I often see programmers starting by CSS. They say, okay, I will split the work, so I will start with CSS. We'll see later in this video, this is most likely not the best idea. I suggest you first write down all the questions you have and all the unknown things you have about this project. So in my case, it will be, for example, am I able to record and play a sound? This sounds a decent question, right? Can I make a basic speech-to-speech system? I don't even know if I'm able to do it. I don't even know how to do it. Can I authenticate my users and monetize my app? So this is not quite unknown for me, but it may be for you. Can I detect silence to automatically trigger an upload, and so on and so forth? So first, write down the unknown parts of your project and the questions you have about it. But the question is how to prioritize those tasks, how to know what question you have to answer first. Well, here I would like to introduce a new concept, which is risk mitigation. And this concept will change your mind forever when it comes to managing a software project. So how to mitigate the risk for your software? Well, the answer is simple. You have two main criteria to mitigate the risk. The first one is criticality. How critical a certain part of your software is. And the second one is uncertainty, like how unknown a certain part of your project is. So for every question we asked before, we have to rank them in this diagram. So basically, let's say you have a task which is extremely uncertain. It will be here on this line, and which is extremely critical. So it will be here on this line. So in the end, you have a point here. Now, let's say you have something very certain. It will be like here on this line. And if it's extremely critical, it will be here. So you end up with a point here. Basically, what you want to do to mitigate the risk is to take all the tasks in this kind of area here, because those tasks are extremely uncertain and also extremely critical. And then you can also expand this area here, because if something is extremely critical for your app, but you're really sure about how to achieve it, and it's a piece of cake for you, then most likely it's not really important to focus on it right now. However, if something is, I would say medium critical, maybe here, but very uncertain, this can change a lot your project, because this is the kind of task that can take your project from 2 days of shipping to 2 months. So you have to answer those questions as fast as possible when you start your project. So I did this exercise myself to show you how it works. So I gave colors to every question, and then I ranked them in this diagram. So it's simple. For example, the first one was, am I able to record and play a sound? Well, this sounds quite critical because if I don't record or play a sound, I won't be able to chat with my AI teacher, right? So I gave it a 5 out of 5 in criticality. And in uncertainty, I gave it a 4 out of 5 because I've done that before. I was quite uncertain about the new available APIs because it was a long time ago. So, it was quite uncertain, but extremely critical for me. So it was 5 out of 5 here and 4 out of 5 here. Then the other question was, can I make a basic speech-to-speech system? Well, I was very uncertain about it because I've never done it before. So 5 out of 5 here. And it was also extremely critical because without that part, I won't have an AI speech-to-speech teacher. So 5 out of 5 here as well. And that way I placed all my questions in that figure. I ended up with, this final diagram here. So here it's very clear that those two questions have to be answered as soon as possible. And, we also have this question here, which is quite uncertain. So maybe I will start with those two questions and then I will try to tackle this one. Another important concept you have to keep in mind is you have to stay flexible, and you don't have to take this methodology at face value. You have to take it with a grain of salt. The reason of that is, for example, if you look at the diagram, the second question is more important than the first one, kind of. So can I make a basic speech-to-speech system? Even if this question looks more important to answer in my diagram, maybe it will be just much simpler for me to answer this question when I actually built an audio recorder system. I could do it without building it, but in this context, it may be a good idea to start with building an audio recorder first before to start creating a speech-to-speech system. So the takeaway here is just you can prioritize your task with this kind of diagram, but don't take them at face value and stay flexible. This is important. And now we can go back to what I was saying at first. What about CSS? What about programmers who start doing CSS when they start a project? Well, if you try to rank CSS in this diagram, you'll see that it will rank really badly. For example, how uncertain is it to make CSS? Well, CSS is something very simple to do, is something really well documented. It's really unlikely you have uncertainty with CSS. So the CSS will rank somewhere around here regarding the uncertainty. And how critical is the CSS for your project? Well, it's also really unlikely that the CSS will be a huge game changer for my project. Could be helpful. It's always better to create nice projects, but is it really critical for it? I don't think so. So it will maybe rank here. So as you can see in my diagram, the CSS is definitely not the question or the task I have to start with. So those are the pillars I wanted to share with you in this video before starting to code. So in the next video, we'll build an audio recorder and player, a speech-to-speech system, a silence detection system, a real-time wave visualizer. We'll add authentication and the AI credit or quota system, and we'll refine the UI and UX together. And to do so, we'll use the following technical stack. So we'll use Next.js as a framework, we'll use Stripe for payment, we'll use Cobol.io for managing our authentication, our product, our quotas and limits, and we'll use OpenAI for everything related to our AI assistant. And you're probably wondering why there is no database here. And actually, I wanted to show you this meme. Spoiler alert, we don't really need a database for this SaaS because the only thing we'll need is the Assistant API provided by OpenAI. So with the Assistant API, we'll be able to store the conversation for every user, and we'll only need to store a thread ID and an assistant ID. And this data will be stored into the user profile. And so Cobol.io allows us to store up to 1 megabyte to data into our user's profile. So we'll be able to store our thread ID and assistant ID directly using Cobol. So for this project, we won't even need a database. But again, this is not the focus of the first video, so we'll see that in the next one. I also noticed that many of you are not subscribers, so feel free to subscribe to not miss the next video. Feel free to smash the like button if you like this video and if you learned something, and feel free to leave a comment below to let me know what you thought about this video. In the meantime, I wish you a good rest of your day, and don't forget, keep shipping, guys. Bye.